I'm Christy Billingsley. I'm the director at One Day Closer and was co-leading this trip with Maddie.
I am Christy's daughter, Maddie Billingsley, the mission lead at Austin Stone Northwest, and so partnered with One Day Closer on this trip. We got a lot of Northwest people here.
A story that impacted me on this trip was on our first day at the nursing home. Maddie and I were praying and walking down halls and just asking, like, Lord, who do you want us to encourage? Who do you want us to talk to today? And we went and found a room with a lady named Dolores. And so we came in, we started talking to her and trying to encourage her. She had pictures of all her children and grandchildren, and she was just sharing how she was lonely and just feeling isolated. We gave some scriptures to encourage her and pray with her. But as we were sharing, I asked her, how many children do you have? And she shared that she had 4 children, but that one of her children had passed and had gone to heaven. It was her 16-year-old son named Terry. And it hit my heart deep because I know what that's like to have a teenager leave this earth too soon. And we just had an instant connection. I love that she just trusted me to tell me her whole story. What started out with me trying to encourage her ended with her encouraging me as I saw this faithful servant who's lived a lot of life without her son Terry, but has continued to press forward and be excited with the hope of heaven and what's to come, but also present and serving in the places that God's called her here.
Something that impacted me on this trip was when we went to the nursing home, and towards the end, before we left, we started worshiping with them in the community room, I guess, and there was an old piano, people were singing, and we had some of the residents in there. We were all just worshiping together with these old classic worship songs, and it brought so much joy to the building that I don't think a lot of the residents had felt in a really long time.
Something that challenged me this trip, I think, has to be the first day when Clayton did the teaching on poverty, and we talked about how the definition of poverty is usually a lot more broad than we like to think it is. And when I was going to the nursing home, I was talking to this one woman, Laura, and they live in Galveston. The beach is not even a block from this nursing home. And I asked her, have you ever been to the beach? What's that like? And she just looked at me all wide-eyed, and she was like, the beach, oh man, it's so beautiful, and I've only got the opportunity to go twice. I was like, man, Galveston to me and my friends is like a bad beach to go to, And there's people in this nursing home who, I guess they're not lacking the perspective of the awe and beauty of God's creation, but lots of them are lacking the hope of Jesus, which is the most impoverished mindset and heart posture that you can be in.
What broke my heart is seeing the community of Galveston and understanding what true poverty means. For me, I didn't understand that we're all in poverty and that everyday people struggle just the same. And it really opened my eyes to how I can approach the community at my home better, and how we can take what we've learned here on this trip and really bring revival back home with us, and be on mission back at home together.
Initially going into this mission trip, I wasn't really sure how God was going to use me or what plans He had, and I had other things going on that I think I was more worried about. This one kid, his name is Caden. Out of everybody who loves basketball on this trip, this one kid loved soccer. At first I was like, oh yeah, this is one kid, this is my guy. But it actually turned out this is the guy I was supposed to spend time with. We just kicked the ball and we juggled, and it was just a lot of laughter and a lot of juggling, but it turned into something serious. It was a joy to get to talk to him, but then the next day it was more of a joy to see him give his life to Christ and to pray with him. And I'll never forget, he just says, I love Jesus so much, and I just want to spend the rest of my life with him. He said he's never going to be the same after today.
A moment I never want to forget is being able to help a little girl accept Christ in her heart. She didn't know who Jesus was before, so I was able to tell her the gospel story, and we are even bringing her a little Bible today if she comes back to VBS.
A story that really impacted me this week started on Tuesday night. There was this little girl that was sitting on the side of the gym, and I went over and I could tell she did not want to talk to anyone. So I just kind of sat with her, and I just got to know her a little bit, and we also just sat in silence for a while. I wanted her to know that she wasn't alone, and not much came of it that night. I was a little bit discouraged, but throughout the course of the week, every time she saw me, she'd come running up with this big smile, a totally different girl. And then today we did a gospel presentation for the VBS, and there was an altar call, and she raised her hand and said that she wanted to have a relationship with Jesus. And so I got to talk with her. It was just such a blessing to see her eyes light up at the idea that she can have a relationship with the God of the universe, and that she doesn't have to earn his love, and that she doesn't have to do anything in order to know Jesus. I'll never forget walking her through that prayer. It's the first time that I've ever done that with somebody, and I'm just really thankful that the Lord allowed me to be a part of her story, and most importantly, a part of his story.
Being able to pray with a little girl at street camp, and as she wanted to give her life to Christ, and just seeing her face light up as she accepted the gospel, and knowing that Christ allowed me to play a part and let me enter into the role of him calling her to himself it's just so humbling and so sweet.
There's just something so special about worshiping alongside children and seeing that childlike joy, and then also getting to talk to them and sit down and have good conversations. And I got to pray with a little girl, and she gave her life to Christ, and that was a really special moment for me. So
I was sitting in the bleachers of the gymnasium, and this little boy came and sat next to me and looked at my cross that I had on my shirt, and he asked me if I was a Christian. I said, yes, I am. I love Jesus very much. I said, do you know Jesus? And he said, what does that mean when you have him here? And he just put his head on my shoulder and just sat there beside me, and really just started opening up to me. Then we ended up in one of the arts and crafts room next, and we were drawing and coloring these crosses together, and he was just going into detail with me about that moment on the cross. And I asked him what that meant for him, and he looked at me and he said, can you show me how Jesus can live here in my heart? And I said, I definitely can. And we were able to pray the prayer together. He was assured that Jesus was now in his heart.
On our very last day of VBS, this little girl came up to me. And after hearing the gospel and having an altar call, she came up to me wanting prayer for her relationship with Jesus and for her family. And that's something that I'll never forget, because just the vulnerability and the bravery that she showed to come up to me and tell me all about her story, all about her family, that really impacted me. And it showed me that I'm capable of doing something like that. And it was a really special moment.
3, 2, 1, go. Hello, my name is Judah, and I accepted Jesus into my heart yesterday morning. And these are my two stuffies, Mr. Bear and Mrs. T.
Who did you tell about Jesus?
His name's Aliyah, but he still doesn't believe in Jesus.
Yeah. We praying for him?
Yes.
There's so many things that stand out this week. Definitely getting to share the gospel with my son, getting to see him share the gospel and plant seeds. Definitely seeing him come to faith in our morning devotional yesterday was an eternal memory. To see the need for gospel community is being yearned for by the people here in Galveston. There are folks that want to see revival here and are looking for sparks of faith.
We were at the rec center. Ben went over to sit with this boy, and the boy didn't want anything to do with him. He kind of turned away, and then the next day, pretty much the same thing happened. This time the boy looked at him and said, "Can I wear your cowboy hat?" And Ben gave him the hat. He tilted it down a little bit where it was covering his face, and he had just the most confidence, and he was dancing around the room. And Ben went out after that. He ran to Walmart and bought the kid a cowboy hat to give to him the next day.
So for me, I have a hard time just communicating with people and talking about different things, and being able to walk up to somebody and learn about their story and actually ask them to pray for them, and to see the smiles and the excitement, but also spending time with my son to take this trip with him, and to see him interact with people and pray over people is something that I will never forget.
Is this good? Yeah. Great. This week was super awesome. One of the things we got to do was street evangelism. We walked up to this one house. This guy standing outside. We just struck up a conversation with him. We're like, hey man, like we're just praying for people. How can we be praying for you? And we're like, what's going on in your life? And he says that he's been sober from alcohol and all substances for a week. And it was getting really hard, and immediately breaks down crying. And we're sharing our stories about the way that the Lord has redeemed that in our life, and talking to this guy about just the freedom that there is in Christ Jesus. In Isaiah 41, it says that he opens prison doors and sets the captives free, and we just wanted to encourage him that that promise was for him too. We began praying over this guy, and he's weeping this is a grown man weeping in our arms, talking about how he wants to live a better life for his wife and his children. And the more and more we're conversating with him, he grows in confidence of like, yeah, I think I know God. Like, I think I believe in God. We're just speaking the name of Jesus over this guy, and it was just a real gift to see the way that one of our other team members led us in the Spirit to go talk to this guy, and the way that the Spirit revealed our stories are similar in alignment to his. And so it was a real gift.
What made me smile this week, really honestly, it was probably Sunday night and just walking in and seeing all the young kids here, just their zeal for God, the way they worship God. Has been super, super inspiring for me this week. My encouragement to them is to not lose that zeal, but keep it on through life. They're going to hit hard things. Always keep that zeal and remember their identity is in Christ.
Just the community of these people, and I don't think anyone has ever pushed me closer to Christ and to be closer in a relationship with Jesus than these people.
I think something I learned about God and His character, and something I was reminded of, is really just how like a community of believers can work together. We did a lot of serving, whether it was like physical needs or more just like evangelism, and talked about a lot just how much a community of believers needs to like be there for one another, and more than just like go to church and discipling, but also like helping within those physical needs. And like from that we can, I think, actually just like steward a lot of growth in the community. Just be the hope and be the help that we are called to be in our community.
Being able to see the Lord in service. Oftentimes I do a lot of evangelism on mission trips, but it's been really sweet to see how the Lord has worked just in serving people this week. It's just been really cool to see the Lord in other ways than I normally see Him on mission trips.
Something that challenged me this trip was one of the days it was raining. We weren't able to go out and do all of our original plans in the morning, and I think with that, I very quickly was ready to go out and do things since we're here, and I was like, oh man, like we're in a different place, and so that means we need to go. And I was reminded of Mary and Martha and how we have the opportunity to just sit and be with Jesus, and we were able to worship and pray for all the people in our lives and the Galveston community. And I got to realize how powerful that is, and how just because we're in this building and we're not interacting with people who live in Galveston one-on-one, we still got to worship the Lord and just see Him move and just be with Him.
On Wednesday morning, there was a tropical storm that actually came through, and we couldn't really go out into the community, and so we just decided to like stay and worship and pray for the community. And I feel like that just really struck me of like, I feel like on a mission trip we want to go out and to do all the things that God is calling us to, and that is a really good and holy desire. But like ultimately, like God's mission is dependent on Him, and it's not dependent on us. And I think that just brought me like a lot of peace and genuine hope for this community, that like, man, God is already at work here, and it's not dependent on me.
I would say that this week I kind of learned about the importance of prayer in our walk, especially when we're doing ministry.
I think there was a lot of opportunities that I had to be dependent on the Lord. So whether that was through evangelism or sharing the gospel, I knew that nothing that I could say or do was going to accomplish anything, but that it was all through the Spirit.
We, on the very first morning here, we went to a church called Sunrise Baptist Church, and it is this beautiful old building that was, I believe it was built in 1910, and they are only using the bottom floor of it right now. The second and third floor haven't been used in about 50 years.
Was at one point a very vibrant church, very vibrant community, but now it's dwindled down to like 10 members.
Just the years of accumulation of things, of dust and dirt and plates, but also we found Bibles and children's books and photos and so much. It was really cool to walk around and explore, and I felt like it was one of those buildings, if walls could talk, like the stories that building would have for us.
We decided to have an impromptu worship night and experienced some really beautiful worship, and we had gone and invited people in the neighborhood to join us.
There was a gentleman named AC who's been at that church for, I think he said 40 years, and you could just see how much it meant to him. The sanctuary was not full, there were not a ton of people, but just the joy in his eyes and in his face, getting to see that sanctuary being used again after all this time. And he's been praying for revival there, and we're really hopeful that this is the beginning of the answers to his prayers. So
I was just talking to a man named AC here at the Sunlight Baptist Church. He really spoke to me about the history and things that he'd been through throughout the whole years of that Baptist church, and that really made me put a smile on my face for, all the things that happened there. Is just really historical, and I'm just so happy to see that he's still up there to this day and doing the things that God told him to do, and it's just very special.
When we were helping doing this worship night, and a guy we invited to go to the church, his name was James, he showed up, and we were just trying to love him and ask for things to pray for him for. And what I was totally inspired by that I'll never forget is just the boldness that Clayton had to get to the root problem of what James was struggling with. He just continually asked James, what is it that you want? To where he finally got to the point of saying, okay, we can help you get to rehab, we can help you do this or that, but you have to be 100%. And people who have a relationship with Jesus, they take off the old self and put on the new self. I thought that was really cool, because seeing what he was struggling with and how persistent he was, I kind of gave up on really pushing through and trying to get to the root problem. But Clayton went in and just shared the love of Jesus and just got to the point to where today they're going to be meeting to continue to talk about whether or not he wants to be all in for Jesus.
And one lady came, her name was Carol. She shared with me that her great-grandfather was actually a founding member of this church, but she had never stepped foot into the church building before. She said she grew up walking past it but had never been inside. And Carol opened up that the Lord had called her to London, even though she's never been to London before. And she's been asking the Lord, how can she follow this call that she has on her life? And so she's been trying to sell her house so that she can be obedient and have the funds needed to move to London. But she was just feeling really discouraged yesterday and wondering if this truly was God's plan. She was praying about it, and she was outside with her dog, and the Lord said, march around your house 7 times like they did with the walls of Jericho. And she's like, it's strange, but okay, I'll do it. And so she walked and marched around her home 7 times, just praying and asking the Lord to reveal himself and to do a work in her life. As soon as she came inside, Ben actually knocked at her door and invited her to this worship night. And she said no one knocks on doors in the neighborhood that she's at, and especially a group inviting her to a church that she's walked by that she knew had been vacant. And we just sat crying together and praying together. After the event, a group of us went to Carol's house,
and we were able to walk around her house 7 times, just like the wall of Jericho, and we were all dancing and singing, and by the 7th time we all shouted, and it was amazing, and I just felt the Holy Spirit in that, and it was just so joyful.
And we walked around her house 7 times, and then we cheered and prayed for her, and it was really sweet, and she was crying, and she's not a very emotional person, so it meant a lot to all of us.
Okay, start over.